Welcome to Breaking Into Sterile Processing, the podcast where we mentor and coach new grads to land their first sterile processing role and launch a career that makes a real difference in patient safety. Whether you're learning online, hybrid, or in person, we cover everything from resumes and interviews to clinicals, externships, and career building strategies. If you're ready to stop guessing, start getting hired, and step confidently into your first role, you're in the right place. So let's dive in. Hey, what is going on out there, Sterile Processing? This is your host for Breaking Into Sterile Processing, that new podcast where we are here to encourage and inspire those in sterile processing. My name is Bill Rochelle, been in the industry for over 22 years. And today we are talking about a great topic, sterile processing myths that hold students and new grads back. Looking forward to jumping into this topic to empower and encourage you in your quest to land that first sterile processing job. So, hey, students and grads, techs looking to level up. Just a quick question I have for you today is, have you ever thought, maybe I'm just not cut out for this? You got a little bit of that imposter syndrome kicking in, or maybe you might think to yourself, everyone knows more than me. I'll never get hired without experience. If that's you, I want you to know one thing. You belong here and you are very capable of being a sterile processing technician. And the truth is that there are a lot of myths floating out there around about sterile processing, things that confuse students. It crushes your confidence and sometimes make good people even doubt their career choices. But today we're going to bust 25 myths of sterile processing. And by the end of this episode, you're going to walk away with clarity, confidence, and motivation to crush your next shift in sterile processing. Before we dive into these myths, let's talk about why this episode is really, really important, okay? So this episode is really important because if you're a student, a new grad, or someone trying to break into sterile processing, you may have felt these feelings. Do I have what it takes? Will I ever get hired in sterile processing without experience? Am I making mistakes that mean I don't belong? Do my mistakes prove that I don't belong here? Those fears aren't just in your head. They're fueled by myths and misconceptions, right? And so in this episode, you will understand the truth about sterile processing, what really matters in your skills, your certifications, and your mindset, how important feeling confident in your ability to succeed is, and that mistakes and struggles are just normal, and you can grow from them. So I want you to be motivated by this episode to take action, ace your externship, land your first job, or level up in your current role. Another thing to consider is recognize the impact of your work. Every instrument you handle matters, and your role is critical to patient safety. See sterile processing, the career with real growth opportunities. From becoming a lead technician to educator, maybe even growing in management, there truly is a path here for you. So this episode matters so much because it's not just about busting myths, it's about giving you knowledge, confidence, and inspiration to step into your career fully prepared. Now together, let's go ahead and bust these myths. Myth number one, you need hospital experience to get hired. That is truly a myth in sterile processing. There are so many people that I've coached over the past couple of years and mentored in my career who were able to land a role without having any experience. That's not something that you can truly allow to hinder you from being successful in landing your first role. The truth is, many hospitals are hiring entry-level technicians. These people are demonstrating the proper attitude, the proper reliability, and their willingness to learn. Your willingness to learn and selling yourself by someone who's willing to learn is a way where people are really able to break in and land their first sterile processing job. So your passion and your work ethic can open these doors when that experience alone cannot. Another myth is certification guarantees a job. I want you to know certification is important, but certification is not the only thing that they're looking for to help you land your job in sterile processing. It helps, but interviews, attitude, and follow through are what is landing jobs today in 2026. Remember to pair your knowledge with confidence and professionalism, and your doors will open. Another myth that's out there is that externships are just free labor. Now, some hospitals are taking advantage of the students, but externships, there's more to externships than just free labor. Externships should be structured learning experiences. It should be a structured learning environment. Even tough externships teach resilience. Every tray you assemble, everything you're learning is helping you to build your future. Another myth that's out there is night shift is bad for your career. Listen, my first sterile processing job was a night shift job. John Muir, Walnut Creek, California. Got on night shift per diem, no benefits. You know what I did? I was able to demonstrate to them why I needed to be there. I proved to them why I was a value-added employee. I was early, I asked questions, and I was always listening to hear what the manager needed. That's a pro tip. Shift reports closing down. We're getting ready to shut down the day. I'm listening. Someone wiped down the washers. I did it. Someone fold towels over here. I did it. Someone take out the old filters out of the trays. I did it. Somebody replenish the workstations. I did it. Why? Because I knew the only way for me to stay employed and during my externship to get employed was to demonstrate to them why I was a value-added employee. And so remember, challenges will fast track your growth, so embrace them. Embrace your challenges because they're helping you to grow in sterile processing. Another myth in sterile processing is just about washing instruments. That is not true. Sterile processing is critical patient care, inspection, sterilization, assembly, and documentation and decontamination. Your work saves lives even if you never see the patient. I call us superheroes without a cape. We get to wear scrubs, aka pajamas. They feel like pajamas. They're so comfortable. We're blessed and we're lucky to be there. If you make a mistake, you're not cut out for SPD. Another myth. Growth is all about making mistakes. We grow as we go. We learn as we go through things. The truth is mistakes are a part of learning, and accountability will build skill. Remember, every error is a stepping stone to mastery. These are some things to consider when growing in sterile processing. I hope these myths are helping you. Please like this. Please subscribe to the Breaking into Sterile Processing. We got so much content coming your way. Special guests, interviewing managers. We are going to empower you into your new role, and we are here to assist you. Another myth is pediatric sterile processing is easier. That is not true. Pediatric instruments demand precision, patience, and focus. But with your hard work in these tough areas, you can develop expertise and grow. Another myth is management doesn't notice good work. There are some facilities where maybe that can be partially true. But when you're doing a good job, believe me, you are investing in your future. Leaders notice consistency, reliability, and communication. As I always say, when you're new in sterile processing, find that person that pours into you. There's always someone in your department that will pour into you. Look for that person. Find that value-added person and let them help you as you grow in your quest to be a successful sterile processing technician. Remember, your consistency, your communication, reliability, these things are going to stick out. So stay consistent and always remember your dedication is being seen. Maybe you don't have a good manager in sterile processing, but one thing I've learned is this. Managers in sterile processing, I'll say it again, will come and go. So you continue to do the job because you will find someone who will be there for you. Another myth is you can't advance unless you leave sterile processing. That is not true. A lot of hospitals today have sterile processing techs, 1, 2 through 4, instrument specialists. You have coordinators. You have sterile processing liaisons in the OR. You got supervisors, educators, directors. There's a lot of room for growth in sterile processing. It offers a path where you can move into lead tech, educator, quality, management. Some techs even travel and some even eventually go into becoming medical sales reps or vendors. Just remember, growth is in your hands. Take initiative and go for it. As Karen Cherry Brown would always say, if you want to be an educator in sterile processing, find areas in your life and in sterile processing where you can educate. There's always someone that will be willing to allow you to do the thing that it is you want to do. So look for those opportunities. Remember, growth is in your hands. Another myth is struggling at first means you chose the wrong career. That is a myth. SPD has a steep learning curve. The struggle equals growth. It takes time to learn all these instruments. It takes time to learn all the processes. It takes time. But as you go through your growth and development, you will be able to learn. And you remember, you are exactly where you need to be. Another myth is sterile processing is boring or repetitive. It is true that every case is different. Every trade teaches us problem-solving skills, but sterile processing is never the same thing every day. They're always going to need different trays. You're always going to be learning something. And if you are getting bored, it means you're not involved enough. Get involved in the department. Be concerned. Don't just be a button pusher. Be a life changer, life saver. Remember that variety strengthens skills and keeps you engaged. There's so much you can learn in sterile processing. You can learn the clinics. You can learn how to do equipment, the patient care analgesia pumps, your IV pumps, your feeding tube pumps. You can learn about your wound care pumps. You can learn so many things about instruments. There's always something you can learn and something you can do. There's a floating myth that only young people can handle sterile processing. Sterile processing takes focus, stamina, and dedication, no matter the age. Remember, your mindset will always determine your success, not your age. Another myth is that you have to know everything on day one. Whoever said that was lying. You do not have to know everything on day one. It's a growth in sterile processing. Nobody expects perfection. Everything in life where it involves learning is a journey. Remember to ask questions, take notes. Once again, find that person that pours into you and ask them questions. Another myth is that sterile processing is a dead-end career. Now, I'm very passionate about this industry, and there are some people who are not passionate. If you don't like sterile processing, find something else to do. The worst thing to do is to come to a department and make everybody miserable because you're not happy. Sterile processing is not a dead-end career. I bought 2 homes through sterile processing. I'm going to be putting my daughter through college, buying her a car with sterile processing. It's a great career, especially when you think about what we do matters. We're destroying microorganisms. We are fighting against diseases. What you do is so important. We are the heart that pumps blood through the hospital. No one in the hospital can do anything without sterile processing. We are so important. Sterile processing offers multiple growth paths, so I would encourage you to seek mentorship, and your career can expand beyond what you imagine. And I do offer a program. It's called the Sterile Processing Success Academy, where we will be helping to guide those into sterile processing who are looking for coaching, who want to level up. We're available. You can find that in the show notes in the description. If you're interested in participating in the sterilization stations coaching offered by Bill Rochelle and team. Another myth is you can't have a life outside of sterile processing. That is a myth. I have a great life outside of sterile processing. Everyone can have a life outside of sterile processing. Work-life balance is up to you, and it is achievable. You have to prioritize, you have to set boundaries, but you can excel in both professionally and personally. Make sure you're making time for yourself. Go on a walk, work out, go swimming, ride a bike, drink coffee with a friend. I love coffee, just in case you didn't know. But I'm just saying there's so many things you can do outside of that. Another myth is sterile processing is easy compared to other healthcare jobs. I don't know who told you that, but sterile processing is a lot of work. It's labor intensive. It is physical, but it is rewarding. You know that you're bringing trays to the OR that are going to save someone's life. And many times you're in the cafeteria, getting a cup of coffee, having lunch, and you're eating right next to someone whose husband, whose grandma, whose child you saved because you made sure their instruments were clean. You made sure that they were inspected and they were functioning at 100% capacity. They were decontaminated. You did everything in sterile processing to make sure that they were ready. And because of you, the doctor had no problems and that surgery was a success. So sterile processing is a great and a rewarding career, but it can be mentally draining and physically demanding if you don't know how to make sure that you're getting help. And what I mean by that is taking those mental breaks, taking your breaks and detaching from everything. And that's with everything. People that work in other jobs, physical construction, wherever you work at, work in general can be labor intensive, but it's up for us to be able to create that mental space that you need. And if you need anything regarding that, please let me know. I do have a community of people I'm with that have great programs to help you in that regard. Just always reach out if you need anything. Respect the craft because it builds resilience and value. Another myth is you'll never make mistakes if you're good at sterile processing. That is a myth. Mistakes are going to happen. Those are the greatest opportunities to grow is in mistakes. And growth will always come from mistakes and from being accountable for those mistakes. How you respond to your mistakes will define your success. You don't want to be a person that carries it around. Just as I always say, we grow as we go. Another myth is sterile processing work doesn't matter because you never see the patient. Every instrument will affect patient outcomes. I say positive patient outcomes. And so you want to make sure you're doing your job correctly because your role saves lives. Think about that. What you do will save someone's life. Let that sink in. What you do will save someone's life. Do your work with pride. Another myth is you should only apply to big hospitals. That is a big myth. Community hospitals, outpatient centers, ambulatory surgery centers offer fast hands-on experience. It's fast-paced, but you're going to learn so much. Those are where a lot of opportunities for externships are at these smaller facilities where you can learn. Our hospital is a community-based hospital. It is smaller. We kind of run like a hospital, but we're also like an ambulatory surgery center because we are open until 5, but we do have call in the evenings and on the weekends. We have flexible scopes, so the students that come in and get precepted by us and the team get to learn so much. But always make sure you're focusing on learning opportunities, not on the size. And make sure that you advocate for your own education. You ever heard the term advocate for your health? Advocate for your own education. If there's something you want to learn, make sure that you check in with your preceptors because those are the ones that are going to be guiding you in your externship. SPD doesn't require communication skills. That is a myth. Sterile processing is a team sport. So we have to communicate, but not only communicate effectively. Because communication is what will help us to prevent those errors in sterile processing. So strong communication skills will help you to grow faster and earn trust. Another myth that we have here in sterile processing is that you cannot get hired without an externship. That is not true. Professionalism and knowledge matter more than externships. But I will tell you that externships, these online programs, you will have a harder time getting an externship unless you go through someone like Preppy that does offer externship through condensed curriculum, I believe. But you will, it is challenging to get an externship, but you can still do it. And if you need help, if you're an online person, went through an online program and you're having a hard time, please click the link in the show notes. Come to us. We will help you, coach you into your first role. There are things that you're not thinking that we can give to you that will help you to empower you to find that first role. And that's what we're here for. Breaking into sterile processing, that's what we're here for, is for you to break into the industry, break the glass, put your job search for sterile processing in your past. That's why the Success Academy is here. So show your value in interviews. Remember, experience is important, but it's not everything. Another myth is you have to follow a linear career path. That is not true. Sterile processing careers are flexible, and lateral moves will always lead to growth. Just remember, I'd like to motivate you by saying explore paths, but always keep moving forward. Another myth is that sterile processing isn't respected. I will tell you, we can't generalize, okay? Some departments are not appreciated. It's out there. But some departments are appreciated. My department, the surgeons buy us lunch all the time. They come and say thank you. We have our sterile processing week. I believe, ladies and gentlemen, that sterile processing is a daily thing. Those should be celebrated, not a weekly, not a once a week. I don't celebrate my wife once a year. I celebrate my wife every day by treating her right. I celebrate those that I care about every day by treating them right. So we should appreciate our sterile processing techs every day because of the work that they do. Sterile processing is critical to patient safety and hospital compliance. And just remember, excellence and professionalism is what will earn your respect, right? Another myth is only certain people have the knack for sterile processing. That is not true. You can learn it. It's all about how you apply yourself and the energy that you're putting out to want to learn, to want to grow, and taking it serious. If you want to be known as a dishwasher, you will be because that's all you do, right? But if you want to be known as a professional in sterile processing, you will be known by that, but you're going to put out the energy that you want, right? And so these skills are learned, they're not innate, but hard work and focus can make anyone excel. Another myth is once you know sterile processing, you're done learning. That is not true. New instruments are coming out, technologies are advancing, tracking systems, robotics, AI. So many things are happening to evolve the industry, new instruments, new standards, and new tech emerging constantly. Lifelong learning keeps you relevant and in demand. And so listen, I want to hear from you. Which of these myths surprised you the most? Which one have you believed? And which one will you burst first? Share your story in the comments. Send me a message or tag a friend starting in sterile processing. Let's bust these myths and lift each other up together, right? Remember this, sterile processing is challenging. But every challenge is an opportunity. Every tray, every instrument, and every shift will build your skill and your confidence. This podcast exists to replace doubt and clarity and fear with confidence. In upcoming episodes, we'll cover resumes, interviewing tips, externships, how to be successful in your externship, and real student breakthroughs. So you don't have to figure this out all on your own. Remember to subscribe now because your breakthrough story might be next. This is Breaking into Sterile Processing. I can't wait to see where your career goes. We'll see you in the next episode. Please like, comment, and subscribe. This is Breaking into Sterile Processing. Help us to break the glass so we can put your job search for sterile processing in the past. This is Bill Rochelle. We'll see you in the next episode.